and talking about what Cumbria County Council will be doing to work with us towards a solution.
One of the problems of coming on, is it on? Yeah. One of the challenges of coming on at the end is that often people have stolen some of the things you're already going to talk about. So I just want to give a quick recap of where we've come from in terms of the issues in Cumbria. We've talked a lot about the project access. Well, that cost, because nobody mentioned the cost of that, £26 million of investment from government that the County Council worked with BT and other partners to provide for Cumbria. And you heard at the beginning of today that that put us at the front end of broadband in Europe a few years ago, but how that's been overtaken by events. But in Cumbria now, we still have networks of the public sector which are growing and improving, which we can build upon. At the moment, in junior schools, we have 10 megabytes, and by March next year, the senior schools will have 100 megabytes. So in terms of children in Cumbria, they will have access to higher levels of broadband than anywhere else. And this is the map that sort of shows that initial investment of the £26 million in terms of the coverage. I mean, it's a bit like the pizzas really, isn't it? Lots of small areas, but it does show how across Cumbria we have a basic infrastructure which needs to move on. And in terms of the Clio network, this is the network in schools. That shows you the coverage across Cumbria at the moment in terms of when we talk about the public sector infrastructure and what we can potentially use as a sort of skeleton to provide some of the community infrastructure we've been talking about. So it's quite significant, it does cover quite a lot of Cumbria. And then this is the map which we've shown the red areas, but it shows the population, which are the dots on there, alongside the red areas and the green areas. So you can see in terms of the potential for broadband in terms of commercial, it's very limited in some parts of Cumbria. So that's, for me, is the justification why the County Council needs to continue to work with communities and public sector businesses to make a difference for Cumbria, because we know that Cumbria needs investment in order to be competitive, people to have good quality of life and to have good access to services. So in terms of what we're doing now, I think that's probably the important thing that we want to talk about, is that we are working with understanding what the demand is. We in the county have a lot of work to do to understand what the economic picture in Cumbria, and that's changed in the last few years because of global markets, but also investment in the county. We've done a huge piece of work which tries to understand the economy at the moment. That information is vital in order to help private sector businesses make some investment decisions. We also understand what's happening in the communities, where communities want services, the type of services they want. We've got challenges in terms of delivering our services ourselves. We have large rural population, buildings all around the county, some of them need an investment, and that we want to make sure that we're providing those services. It's also about exploiting existing networks. In terms of working with the private sector, we've talked about the BT bid earlier on from Bill. We've also been supporting the other two community bids that have been going forward, and we're hopeful that the Minister's going to announce the success. I was vaguely hoping he might announce the success this morning, but I was disappointed. But I'll have to hold my breath for a bit longer. But there, that shows where we are continuing to support both the private sector and the community sector in terms of moving this agenda forward. And then in terms of the Clio network, I mean, that's, I think, where we can want to still work with communities to see what opportunities there are. And I look forward to the guidance from ministers in terms of some of the technical issues, which I know as bureaucrats often start to get where people's eyes glaze over because we say, well, you need to do this or that. There are reasons and technical reasons why we can't do certain things, but I think what we've shown with some of the work we've been doing in Great Asby, where we have worked with the Clio network and the local community and created a community interest company, which has enabled that local community to access the network and be able to provide broadband in the community. So we've got good examples in Cumbria where we are working with the community, alongside the community, providing some of that know-how and that knowledge and helping that community generating their ideas. But I think it's for the communities in Cumbria to have different solutions, because what's right for one area is not right for another. But we're happy to work alongside communities providing that support. In Great Ashby, the community were able to access Rural Development Programme money, which, while funding from government is reducing, we all know that, that money is European money which we were able to access and support the community going forward. In terms of looking ahead to the future, clearly we want to continue to work with investors to ensure that we get the right money into Cumbria. In terms of economic competitiveness and making sure Cumbria fights its position on the national and international stage, we know we need to have this investment. We've heard it from businesses, we've heard it from the communities today. There's been a change in the way that government's wanting to support economic investment through what's called a local enterprise partnership. It's a new buzzword that's in town. Cumbria has put forward a proposal to government in the last few weeks where we want to work with the private sector to ensure that we have competitiveness for Cumbria. And as part of that, broadband and connectivity would be one of the key areas that the local enterprise partnership, if we are successful, will be on the agenda. So again, that's an opportunity for us to work with not only BT, but other companies that we've talked to today in the room, how we want to work together to enable the companies in Cumbria to be successful and competitive. And I'm very, very pleased to be able to say, because a lot of people come and talk what they can do in terms of highly complicated technical solutions. I'm coming with some money today. It's only a small amount of money, but we've got a small amount left from that large amount we had initially. And we're pledging £17,000 to the Eden Valley today to be able to help them take forward some of the broadband. And having heard the cost model that we were talking about earlier on, that's obviously going to make quite a difference if we can get that model right for the local area. And our role is very much thank you. And that's obviously a small contribution, but in terms of our role, I think we're here to work both with the private sector, the public sector and the communities to ensure that we get the best for Cumbria.